All right, we are going to get started. Let's get the camera on my head instead of on the wall behind me. There we go. All right, so welcome to our lead gen Tuesday nights. So today we're talking about farming. And how to use farming to grow bigger crops. So as always, if you have any questions, thoughts, or additional items to share, feel free to throw it in the chat box, raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself and interrupt me. If you're watching this on replay, feel free to put a comment down below, or just shoot me over a direct message and we will get that answered for you. But let's get started. Good evening, Ralph and Anastasia.
We're the diehards.
The diehards. All right. So our learning objectives today are we're going to talk about farm basics, what is a farm, how to choose a farm, all those things.
Hello. Finally got my microphone on.
Sorry. You do. All right. Then we're going to cover how to take a neighborhood farm to the next level. We're going to talk about developing systems around your farm to create consistency, how to add value to the homeowners in your farm, and ultimately the goal is to learn how to dominate your farm. So let's get started with farm basics. Okay, the farm. It's actually a word that means something. It's an acronym, not just a word. I thought, when I first heard of a farm, I thought, well, it's called a farm because you water it and sprinkle it and spend time in it and it grows like a farm. But no, it actually stands for frequent area of repetitive marketing. So the important thing is to remember that you are marketing to your farm frequently and repetitively. If you're not doing frequently and repetitively, you're probably wasting your time. That's not true. You'll probably still get results. It's just going to take a lot longer. Okay. It's kind of like a regular farm. Like if you water it a lot, like when you should, like you frequently water it and repetitively take care of your farm, it's going to grow really big and pretty. And if you don't take care of your farm and it's just sporadic, then it's going to take a while to get where you want it to go. So it works either way. All right. There are lots of different types of farms. You can do a demographic farm where you choose maybe like move up homeowners, or owners that have been in their home a certain period of time, or those with a certain amount of equity, or owners of a certain age, or like renters. So there's lots of ways that you can do a demographic farm. The other main type of farm that we usually talk about is called a geographic farm. Okay, that's what we're going to focus on today. With a geographic farm, the principles apply to both, but it's a little different on a geographic farm. So with a geographic farm, you're going to choose homes based on location. Okay, it could be a specific neighborhood. It could be a zip code. There's no wrong or right answer here. There's others, like Vacaville has 2 zip codes, so you probably wouldn't want to pick a whole zip code. Whereas if you go to other states and other cities, like you go to Arizona, like each neighborhood has a different zip code. So you could totally choose a zip code. You're going to get like 1,000 houses, somewhere right around there, where you can grow your farm. So that would work there. Whereas with like Vacaville, you probably wouldn't want to do that. So a lot of people choose to farm the area in which they live, but you don't have to, right? Especially if you don't like your neighborhood, or if you are in a neighborhood where you wouldn't feel comfortable spending time, then you probably don't want to pick your neighborhood. The ideal size of a farm, they tell you, is about 400 homes to start. Okay, that being said, I'm a firm believer in when you look at your snapshot of the farm that we'll talk about here in a minute, you want to look at a snapshot of about 400 homes, but I often recommend that if you haven't farmed before, you're not in the habit of doing it, this is a new lead generation strategy for you, that out of those 400, we just start with like 100 homes. Okay, with 100 homes, the results are going to be a little slower, but it keeps the cost and the time requirement a little bit more manageable. So it gets you in the habit of being in your farm, and then you can expand and earn the right to add more houses over time. So I usually recommend that when you first start out, you take 100 homes, You execute your plan with those homes for about 3 months. And then if you're consistent and repetitive in marketing to your farm for those 3 months, then you add another 100 homes. You do those. Now we've got 200 that we're going to work for 3 months. Once we've been successful working those in 3 months. And if you miss a couple months, then we're just going to start over. Okay. It's just going to be, now we've got a new 3-month time period. We want to be consistently working them for 3 months before we add more homes. And then I would say just keep adding 100 homes until you feel like you've reached what would be your max. And it should be around 400 homes once you start seeing results from 400 homes. So it's going to take you about a year to get to your total farm. Once you start seeing results from those 400 homes, you're consistent, you're repetitive in your marketing efforts. Then if you wanted to grow it bigger, you absolutely could. There are agents out there that have farms of 1,200, 2,000 homes, and they've got a system and they're working it, and that's their main source of business. So just kind of keep it in mind. So again, we want to treat it like you have to earn the right to continue to add homes. Okay, by starting with a small number like 100, it's going to keep you from feeling overwhelmed. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Again, so me and the experts, when it comes to farms, we don't get along very well. So most experts recommend a turnover rate on your farm of 4.8%. The turnover rate is going to be the total number of homes sold in that area divided by the total number of homes. Okay, it's the percentage of homes that turn over in a 12-month period. Okay, so most say you should go for 4.8%. Usually your local title company can help you determine a turnover rate in your farm area, as well as they can usually pull names and information for the owners in your farm. So utilize your title company. It's a good cheat. And even though you should aim for a farm with a 4.8% turnover rate, I would not say not to choose an area because it has a lower turnover rate. Higher is fabulous. Lower, they would say don't do it. I say go ahead, because if you choose a neighborhood with newer homes that's like less than 3 years old, the turnover rate probably hasn't even started yet. Okay. It could have a randomly high turnover rate in 1 to 5 years ago. Like the neighborhood might have had not a new home, but regular homes may have had like a higher turnover rate 1 to 5 years ago. And now it's dropped down because those homeowners are all living there. And it could be getting ready to start turning over again. Okay. Also, if you're looking in like a super high-end farm or one of the most desirable areas, the turnover rate might be a little lower, but that's okay, because especially if we're in a higher sales price point, that's what it's called, price point, right? If you only got 1 sale versus 4, you would be happy. So if you want to do a higher end neighborhood, you could do that as well. But I wouldn't necessarily base my decision to do a farm on the turnover rate itself. Okay. Lastly, so location, size, turnover rate. You don't want to choose a farm that someone else is already consistently working. Okay, so once you choose your area, if you're choosing your neighborhood, you're probably going to know, does somebody knock on your door all the time? Do you get mailers from a specific agent? Is every home that goes up for sale from that agent? You probably know if it's your neighborhood, whether somebody else is marketing to that neighborhood or not. Otherwise, a good way to do it is go to the area that you want to choose, go knock on some doors, introduce yourself, let them know that you're going to keep them up to date on the real estate market on a regular basis. Maybe introduce them to local business owners, share with them what's going on in the community, and ask them if they have any other realtors that come by and are already doing that. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, we have this other agent. She swings by. I can't remember her name, but she comes by all the time, right? So they're going to tell you if somebody's doing that. So that's a good way to introduce yourself. The other way that you can do it too is market saturation. So if you go to the MLS, we pull up the sales history for the last year in the area that you want to farm. We look at the sold sales history. Are more than 20% of the listings from one agent? That's a pretty good indicator that somebody's probably marketing to that farm. Okay. When you go to introduce yourself to them, you can let them know that not only are you going to provide them these items of value that I already mentioned, letting them know what's going on with their community, introduce them to local business owners, keep them up to date on the real estate market, but you also can let them know that you're going to help create community in the neighborhood and that you look forward to earning their future business and becoming the realtor of choice for them and their friends and family, right? So introduce yourself with your end game in mind. Okay. So to recap, choose an area where you want to do business. An area that has a potential of at least 400 homes. Know and be comfortable with the turnover rate. When looking at the turnover rate, look at the full farm, not just the 100 homes you're going to start with. Give yourself permission to start with 100. And once you've selected your farm, go introduce yourself. Okay. In addition to knocking on everybody's door in your farm, I would bring like a postcard or a letter with an introduction of who you are, what you're going to do for the neighborhood, kind of what your plan is. If you're local to that neighborhood, if you live there, like introduce yourself that you live, you know, over on such and such street. You don't necessarily have to identify your exact house, but just let them know that you belong there. Any questions?
Nope.
Fabulous. All right. Next, we want to create your system. Okay, now that we have the farm identified, let's talk about how to create a system to work your farm. Okay, the number one thing is that you need to know your farm. You should be the neighborhood expert. You should study the sales for the past 12 months. You should know the homes. You should know the floor plan. You should know who is moving in and moving out. If there is a house for sale, you want to know what that house is. You want to go schedule a tour to walk through it. You want to know who those sellers are, what their names are. And then when somebody moves in, go take them a care package and introduce yourself as well. Okay, know what's going on. In addition, take the time to be in your farm daily. Run it or walk through it. Take your kids or the dogs to the park. Really spend time in your farm. Know the streets, know the parks, know local businesses. Learn the habits of the people in your farm. You want to be visible in that farm, okay? If this was me and it was my farm and I would spend my time, I'm like, man, I'm going to go for a walk today. I'm going to go walk at my farm. I'm going to drive over there, preferably during like a busy time where people are leaving for work or coming home. And that's when I'm going to go walk it. So if they're seeing my face again, that not only did I knock on their door, but now they're seeing my presence in that neighborhood. Okay, the whole idea is to consistently plant seeds in your farm to produce consistent business. Okay, but remember, consistency is key. You also need to make sure that you are your authentic self and build trust by connecting with your farm again consistently and follow through. If you say you're going to follow up, you need to make sure that you do that. Put that on your calendar. Find opportunities to send handwritten notes. Find opportunities to connect with the people in your farm. Okay, build trust. Steps to farm success. Number one, develop a monthly newsletter. We will dive into this here shortly. If you decide that a newsletter is too much, it's not, but think about a way to create an abridged version, like a postcard or something to that effect. But we want something that we're going to give to them on a monthly basis. Ideally, you're going to go door knock on their doors on a monthly basis. That's how to build the fastest farm, is to show up and be face to face with the people. If they're not home, you're going to leave something behind. Number two is wear your uniform. Get some shirts and jackets made, have them embroidered with your name or team name and the company logo. You want to be noticeable. In addition, your open house signs, your for sale signs, your uniform, it should all correspond in color and design. It should look the same. Okay. If you're having like some shirts made, embroidered with your name and like Realty One Group Fox, you might want to have something like clever on the back or on the back of your sweatshirt or your jacket, something that says like neighborhood expert or, and like the name of the neighborhood, like North Orchard neighborhood expert or North Orchard neighborhood realtor, right? Something like that so that people know what your business is and why you're there. 3 is host regular charity drives for giving opportunities. People like to get involved in giving. It's a great opportunity to connect with your farm. You may want to start with 1 drive per quarter and then expand to 1 per month. But it could be things like in January, we do a drive for blankets for the local animal shelter. In February, maybe we do a coat drive for the kids. In March, maybe we do a canned food drive, because oftentimes there's a lot of canned food drives that happen in the holidays and then they kind of get forgotten about in the spring, right? So you can think of something to do every month that's giving back to the community and getting your farm involved with that, because that way people will see not only do you care about your business, but you also care about the community. Okay. Host open houses in your neighborhood. If anyone has in the office has listings in your farm, offer to hold it open every single weekend. This is going to add to your presence. The neighbors are going to stop in, people driving by are coming in, your signs are going to be up. This is going to help with that brand recognition. Okay, the next thing is reinvest in your business. What would help you offer value? What about, over time, as we have closings, maybe we set aside that are in your farm, maybe we set aside a special fund to reinvest back in our farm. So maybe we invest in like a box truck, right? To help clients move. Maybe we get garage sale signs so that owners can borrow, or think about what other equipment or things might be helpful, right? Create a plan today for future reinvestment. So not everything has to happen right now. So we can think about, gosh, in 5 years, here's what I want my farm to look like, and here's what I'm going to work to get there. Okay. Number 6 is belong to your farm. In the long run, if you don't already live in your farm, you may want to buy real estate in your farm. Be connected to your farm area through ownership, either with your primary home or even future investment properties. Okay, it will create a stronger sense of community if you belong to your farm. Any questions there about getting started?
Nope.
All right.
No, this is making me second guess my new farm.
Why? I liked your
Well,
new farm idea.
Because I was farming in my neighborhood and I'm like, well, maybe I'll do 2 farms. I don't know.
All right. I think you should go with your new idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah, I
explain it.
farmed my area and I did the door knocking and I did the door hanging with my face on it. And plus, like you said, if you're outside and walking the trails and everything, everybody gets to know you and everything. It's like I had a neighbor the other day come over here with a flyer and he goes, Ralph, can you get me into this house? I go, I sure can.
See? Perfect.
Yep.
I mean, maybe Adriana, you should second guess, but I kind of liked your new plan.
Okay, I'll stick with it.
Think about it while you're on vacation.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about how to level up our farm. The number one thing is choose a community or neighborhood that you're passionate about. That is why most agents choose the neighborhood they live in or that they own property in, because it just brings up that level of passion for the area. Doesn't mean you can't be passionate about a different area. Maybe it's the neighborhood you would like to move to. Maybe it's an area of town that you're like, man, I'd love to live here. Like, this is the neighborhood that it feels like I would make it if I could live here. Whatever it is, choose a community or neighborhood that you're passionate about. We talked about choosing a neighborhood, and depending on how your city is laid out, again, you may want to choose a full zip code or just like a little portion of it. Again, like Vacaville, it's too big to choose a whole zip code, so you probably don't want to do that. We talked about choosing about 400 homes and starting with 100. But the big picture is that your farm could become your main source of business. So you want to be able to expand it to give you the closings that you want as your business continues to grow. Okay, so you may want to be able to grow it to like 1,200 or 2,000 homes over the next 3 to 5 years. So not only do you want to identify an area that you're passionate about, but you want to identify a neighborhood that has growth opportunities. Okay. Because if we're going to like really go at farm as our #1 lead gen source outside of our sphere of influence and leads from listings, like we want to be able to grow it to get to the closings that we need. And keep in mind that if the turnover rate is 4.8%, so let's say that we have 400 homes. 400 homes times 4.8%, that's 20 homes are going to sell in that neighborhood each year. Okay, that's what that turnover rate tells us with 400 homes. That's why they choose that. But keep in mind, you're not going to get 100% of the business, especially starting off. Now, as your business grows and you become the neighborhood expert and you establish yourself and people start seeing more and more signs of your face in their yard, in their neighborhood, you're going to gain more and more market share. But generally speaking, what they say is about 20% of the business is the goal. We're going to talk about, our goal is going to be more. So 20% of about 20 homes is going to be about 4 homes. Okay, so 4 homes per year are going to come from your farm, which isn't a bad deal, especially, if the average sales price is 600,000 times, let's just say that the average commission is 2.5%. Again, we don't set commissions, but we're just picking a number as the average. So 2.5%, that's $15,000 per home. So that farm is worth $60,000, even just at 4 homes. Okay, if we can get that number higher, then it's even better. Or if you're like, well, I'm happy, like the goal of 20%, but if we grow the farm over the next 3 to 5 years to 1,200 homes with a turnover rate of we're going to use 4.5%, that's 54 homes. If we capture 20% of that business, then that's 11 homes just from our farm, right? So that's why we want to have the ability to be able to continue, the potential to continue to expand it. Now, what you could also do is you may have a specific neighborhood that you want to do. Like Adriana may be like, well, I'm going to keep my home farm where I live and I'm going to work that and start getting consistent in that because it's easy and safe and it's near my home and I don't have to go anywhere to do it. So I'm going to start there and grow it there, but I'm only going to keep it to like my specific neighborhood. When it's time to grow beyond that, I'm not going to push into the other neighborhoods. After I get to that point, I'm going to pick up another neighborhood. You could do that too, because once you have the system and processes in place, you're consistent in working your farm, you know how to get responses, you know how to create community, then it makes it easy to start adding additional places or additional neighborhoods. One of the reasons we just talk about finding a place that allows you to continue to expand is that the events that you run, just you're inviting more people to them rather than having to host 2 of them. So some things to keep in mind. There you go. Create the newsletter. Okay, our goal is to create a newsletter that will wow our people. Ideally, you want it to be 4 pages with a page for each of the following areas. The first page, you can start smaller with like an abridged version. If you're like, man, I looked at pricing of, putting 2 pieces of paper together front and back and it's kind of pricey. Then you could start smaller. So you could start with a postcard size and then you could, send them to another location. Like for the full story, check out our Facebook page and then you could post the full thing on there, right? So you could just do like a little highlight and then for the full story or for the video or whatever it is, like send them to a neighborhood social media page. Okay. So section 1 or page 1 is going to be a letter from the editor. And you're like, Amy, who is the editor? Well, that is you. You're the editor. It should include current market conditions, seasonal well wishes, market area matrix, homes for sale, active and contract sold homes. Okay, this is the area where you are the absolute expert. So that's going to be your page 1 or section 1 is letter from the editor. Okay, again, it should include current market conditions, any seasonal well wishes, there's holidays or something coming up, market area matrix, right? Like the turnover, like days on market, the average or median sales price, average median list price, maybe the percent of list to sale price. I think on Real Scout, you can look up, is it there? I think it's there. You can look up like the number of buyers in a specific area. So you could like always highlight that. If there was a property that went into contract, you could always call that agent and be like, hey, did you get multiple offers? And the agent's gonna be like, yeah, absolutely. Oh, can I just ask how many offers you ended up with? Oh, we got 6, right? We could highlight that on our newsletter, like so-and-so received 6 offers. Like there's a lot of buyers looking in this area. If you're looking for a time to sell, now is it, right? In addition to the market area matrix, we want to include homes for sale, homes that are under contract or pending, and then sold homes. Okay, so that's page 1. Page or section 2 should highlight a local business owner. Okay, ideally, I would say highlight a local business owner that lives in your farm, right? Or a business located in or near your farm. Okay, if you don't have one or can't find one of those, it might be 1 month you go around asking, knocking on doors, handing out your newsletter or whatever it is, and saying, hey, who do you know that owns a business? Do you own a business? Do you know of any other business owners in this area? We're looking to highlight local business owners, right? The things that you want to answer when you interview the business owner is, what do you love about what you do? If they are located in the farm, you may want to ask them why they chose to locate their business in that farm. If their business is located there, you may want to ask for a coupon or a voucher to include in the newsletter, right? Help drive business to them. It's free advertising for them. And also drop off copies of the newsletter to their business over the next year. Okay, ask if that's okay. Make sure to add the business owner to your database. And I would recommend not just doing like an interview with the business owner for the business highlights, right? We're going to ask them about the business, who their ideal client is, what they do, their specific niche, how they got started, what they love about their business. We're going to ask them all those questions. And it may be better to do it on video, because if you do it on video, then you can share it to the Facebook page. And then if you have like a link going from the newsletter to see the full interview here, it draws people into the neighborhood page where they can get to know that business owner on a video type level. It makes it more personal. Okay, so I would video the conversation, and then you can edit it, cut it, splice it, do whatever you want, and then take that information and put it in the local business highlights. Page or section 3, I would recommend highlighting a local student in your neighborhood, someone who is excelling in sports, excelling academically, or someone that is doing great things in the community. Ideally, I would focus on juniors and seniors, as those parents are potentially becoming empty nesters and maybe looking to move in the future. Always reach out to the parents first and ask for permission. Bring in a photographer, capture a photo. You may even include like the family in a couple of the photos so that you're offering added value and they're getting a family photo out of it. And then make sure that you add that family to your database as your circle of influence. Okay. You could also choose to highlight a homeowner in the neighborhood, someone who's doing great things in the community. Okay. And you're like, Amy, how would I find these people? Well, as you're going around door knocking on the doors, you could be asking people, hey, do you know of a student that lives in your neighborhood that we should highlight in our local student or neighbor highlight section next month? Like, do you know somebody that should be recognized? You could also have it if you have a Facebook group that you've created for your farm. You could each month, you could post a post in there for people to nominate somebody for the next month. Okay, so you can make it fun and enjoyable, gather information from the neighborhood. Page 4. Page 4 is going to have your keeper contents. You can, you're going to think about what you can include that's going to make them not want to throw your newsletter in the trash. It could be activities like the summer movie series at Brendan Theaters. It could be a list of all the things that happen during the summer in the city that they can participate on, like free ice skating if it's over 100 degrees, and fun days at the pool. Or you could highlight the Creek Walk series 1 month on what to expect the schedule is for the Creek Walk. If there's a high school nearby, you could always highlight the home like football games or baseball games for that high school. You could also do like recipes. That could be where like who knows, a coupon for some other business or something might want to go, but something that's going to want to make them hold on to that newsletter and not throw it in the trash. That keeper page is also a great place to make sure your logo is on that, or a banner with your information. So when they keep that page or they tear it off from the rest of the newsletter, they still have your contact information. Questions about the newsletter? Okay. Delivery of your contact or delivery of your newsletter or anything. We don't just want to send it and forget it. You can choose if you want to mail it or drop it off on their doorstep. Personally, I would recommend dropping it off, as it gives you more opportunity for connection, but you could mail it and that would be okay as well. You're not going to get you're not going to capture the business as quickly just mailing stuff. We're going to be honest. That being said, ideally, we would like additional touches. So we want to be able to connect with the people before and after delivery of the newsletter. So especially if we're going to mail it, right? We can work with the title company or third-party vendor to help get phone numbers for the owner and our occupants in your farm. The goal here is that in a TCPA compliant way, you're going to call the owners or use something like Slide Dial, where it automatically just drops a voicemail message into their phone number one day before delivery. It's going to say something like, hey, it's Amy. It's time again. In a couple of days, we will be delivering you're going to come up with a catchy name. I don't think I mentioned that before, but come up with a catchy name of your newsletter, like the North Orchard News. It's not very catchy. I'm just stuck on North Orchard. So just something, that sounds good together. So you're gonna be like, we will be delivering the North Orchard News. Be sure to check it out. We highlighted and then point out one thing in the newsletter. Okay. Point out one thing. Who did you highlight as the local business? Who did you highlight as the neighbor or student of choice? So point something out that they should look for in that newsletter so it piques their interest. Then after the newsletter is delivered, we want to call or send another voicemail message about 2 days after. Hey, it's Amy again. I hope you enjoyed this month's newsletter. Some of your neighbors called and asked for a valuation of their home. You could say a market analysis. If you want a current update on your home's value, call or text me at blank and be sure to leave your name and address. Thanks so much. I look forward to connecting with you soon. Right? Super simple. If you're calling versus using a voicemail system, then you may want to call the week before delivery and the week after versus days before or after, because it may take you a while to get through all of the phone numbers. Okay, so we're going to drop off the newsletter. We're going to call before it with, hey, be on the lookout for the newsletter. And then we're going to call after with, hey, I hope you enjoyed this month's newsletter. A couple of the neighbors called me for free market analysis of their home, or called me to find out what their home was worth in today's market. If you would like to know your home's value, call or text me, leave your phone number, be sure to leave your name and address. Right? Super simple. And now we've gotten 3 touches each month to our farm with those 3 items. Okay. The goal is each year you're adding at least 12 business owners to your database and to your circle of influence, because we're highlighting a newsletter each and every month. In addition, we've also added 12 homeowners, not just to our database, but to our circle of influence by highlighting them or their child. Okay. You've completed 12 deliverable touches with the newsletter and completed 24 additional connections with phone calls before and after delivery. This should lead to listings taken. Okay, and we know that I always preach over and over and over again for those in our database that we want business from, but it's 36 to convert. And here we have 12 deliverable touches, 24 additional touches with a phone call before and after without doing anything else in our farm besides the newsletter. That's 36 touches, 36 interactions. Any questions about that? All right. In addition, we want to make sure that we are bringing value to our farm. So we want to offer them something that keeps them excited when they hear your voicemail, when they read your newsletter, or when they answer the door. Okay. In addition, you need to be recognizable. So make sure that you have a system in place to offer smart fixes before selling to maximize their sales price. So we need to have contractors and handyman in our vendor list that are willing to work with us. Okay, we want to maximize their equity. So we want to have some systems in place to be able to do that. You may want to offer to cover the cost of minor items on their pre-sale inspections up to X number of dollars because they're in your farm, right? Like take care of all those little random things, the garage door that doesn't automatically close that leads to the house. And, who knows the other little things. There's always like faceplates that are missing in the house and like random stuff going on. So you could do that. We want to be able to offer quick facelifts. We want to be able to pinpoint painters in case they want to do a quick coat of paint before they sell, and even have like a color palette of like which homes sell the fastest. Here are the top colors for interior and exterior. So make sure you build relationships with a contractor, maybe even someone that's willing to work with you, maybe somebody from the neighborhood that'd be willing to get paid at close of escrow too. Okay. You want your name to spread like wildfire, and you want to be the one that goes above and beyond to help their home sell experience be exceptional. In addition to that, you want to make sure that you have consistency in your brand. You may want to hire somebody to help with this. Your newsletter, your postcards, your social media, they should all be consistent in their colors, their fonts, and the look so that people recognize your stuff anywhere. What they get in the mail should match the same design that's on your open house signs or your for sale signs. Your colors that you wear when you're walking the neighborhood. And just so you know, I'd probably have like a workout uniform too. So if I'm like jogging the neighborhood or doing a quick like morning walk, not just a stroll, but in the neighborhood, I want to be recognizable. So I'm going to wear something very similar to what I color and branding wise to what I go knock on their doors with. It might be a little less professional because I'm working out versus what I go show up on their door with, but it's all going to be consistent. That should all tie in with your social media presence, your online presence, what they're getting in the newsletter. It should all be very similar colors, fonts, branding. Okay. Get belly to belly. There is nothing that builds relationship faster than getting in front of people. So drop off the newsletters, knock on their doors. Not only is it a heck of a lot cheaper than mailing, but it gets you in front of the owners. So it gets you having conversations, right? If you're doing an open house, don't just promote the open house, invite them. Invite them to the open house. You want them to come by and see the product, especially if it's your listing. You want them to meet you, and you want them to see how you sell properties. Okay. And don't forget that you need to focus in on your client experience. Have a system and process to really bring the wow, so that once you get a listing in your farm, they talk you up to the other neighbors, their friends, and their family. Okay. Create community in your farm so that you can make sure to dominate your farm. Okay, the reason that we talk about 400 homes and the 4.8% turnover, I already mentioned this, but I'm going to make it again, is that each year 20 homes are going to sell in your farm. It's considered good to capture 20 to 25% of the business, which again is only 4 to 5 sales. So hopefully those that are selling are also buying. So hopefully you can turn that from 4 to 5 sales into 8 to 10, right? Because most are selling to buy, even if it's selling to buy and you're getting the referral fee because they're moving out of the area. Whatever that is, we should be able to double that. And I don't know about you, but 8 to 10 sales, that's probably not going to get me to my goals as a full-time realtor. So we also want to continue to level up our game so that we don't just get a few listings, but that we dominate our farm to win like 50% market share. Okay, who would like 50% market share in your farm? Right, so now instead of
Me.
8 to 10, yeah, right, me. Instead of getting 8 to 10, 20% goes to 50%. So 50% of 20 sales is 10. And then if all those are buying up, or most of those are, we're adding like another 10. So now we've gone from 8 to 10 sales to like 20 sales just on our farm alone. Okay. It all comes down to community. So remember the newsletter when we connected with the business owner and someone from the neighborhood? Again, film that interview, have a social media page for your farm, direct people there to see the full interview, post additional content there to drive people to your social media where you can interact with them daily. Make both a public group so that people, like a public page, I would make a page for your neighborhood that's public. And I would also make a group, like a private group, for the people that actually live in your farm. Okay, so public page for people looking to move to the area so you can draw in new buyers. And then that private page for the homeowners themselves. In those groups, we don't want it to be all about buy and sell houses. I'm a real estate agent. I'm a real estate agent. I'm a real estate agent. Don't do that. But you do want to be the go-to in those groups with information. If somebody's asking for a contractor, plumber, whatever it is, we want to be the one that's got that referral for them, babysitter, daycare, whatever it might be. We want to let people know. Okay, so make sure you have a vendor list for all things that someone may need in the area. In addition, send mail. If you have a new listing or a closing, send postcards to your farm, especially if that listing was in that area, right? You could also back up your newsletter with a postcard as well. So you could send out that market summary each month. So maybe on your newsletter, we touch on like some market points in our editorial, but then maybe we send out a separate, maybe we door knock with the newsletter and then we send out a separate postcard with all the market stats as well. So you can choose how you want to roll that, but more interactions, the better. Make sure you walk through and view every listing that comes on the market, right? Even if it's not yours in your farm, you want to know the market and you want to know the homes available. If there is a country club or some other type of club associated with your farm, join it and be part of it. Be there regularly and get face to face with every opportunity you can with the neighbors. Host every open house, not just yours. We already talked about this. If your brokerage allows you to host other agents' open homes that aren't in your brokerage, do that. If it doesn't, then just stick with any agents in our office that have open houses in your farm area. You want to be the face of real estate in your farm. In addition, you can host neighborhood events, right? You can consider hosting or sponsoring activities like movie in the park, an annual garage sale, food truck nights, play dates for moms with young kids, family fun days, rent bounce houses, and like large slides. Bring in like food or drinks or vendors, DJs, make it fun, right? Keep the kids occupied so that the adults can mingle and you can get to know the parents. Think outside the box and be creative with like high school sponsors or scholarship awards, right? As your farm begins to grow, you could set aside a couple $1,000s to do a high school scholarship to a senior that lives in your farm, right? Something fun like that. Support the youth sports, host and or share community events. Maybe put flags in the yard on Veterans Day, Memorial Day, or the 4th of July. Just so you know, if you're going to do that, it makes it go a lot easier if you sharpen in a pencil sharpener the base of all the flags so they're pointy. It'll stab in their yards a lot easier. Host an Easter egg hunt, Santa pictures, pet photos, do a 4th of July block party or bike parade, host National Night Out. Anastasia's done a shred event. Adriana, what did you do before the Easter egg hunt?
The ice cream event.
Oh, ice cream social event. So just make it fun, right? You could do like a neighborhood water balloon fight, and you could supply thousands of water balloons, right? The other thing that you want to do is help people in the neighborhood be the first to know about your new listings, right, in the farm before they hit the market, so that they can refer people to you and pick their neighbors. Make it fun. And remember, you can start small and you can add things to your farm. So you may just want to start with, I just want to be consistent with my newsletter and my phone calls before and after. I'm going to start with 100 homes. Once I'm going to do that, I'm going to work my way up to the 400 homes. And then once I get to 400 homes and I'm consistent in the newsletter, then I'm going to start adding events. I'm going to start with 1 per quarter or 2 per year. And then once I'm successful with 2 per year, then I'm going to add 1 per quarter. And then once I'm successful with 1 per quarter, then I'm going to add 1 per month, right? So you could do a lot of things like that to make it fun and enjoyable. Don't forget that we already talked about too, like do charity events to draw people in as well. So questions about developing and creating systems and processes for your farm to capture the business and get listings. Any ahas from today's class?
How do you start the wording on your letters?
How do you start the wording on your letters?
For your farm? Hi, or I just want to introduce myself. I mean, where do you start to?
I would say that's a personal decision based on your personality type, because we want to be authentic and we want to be us. I would say if it was me, I'd just be like, hi, right? And then it'd be like, my name's Amy. I'm your neighbor. I live around the corner. I live over on whatever street. And I just want to take a minute to introduce myself. I'm a realtor local to the area. I've been licensed for 18 years. And I'm going to be coming by your home on a regular basis to keep you up to date of what's going on in the market. I'm going to introduce you to local business owners. Would love to be able to highlight students and property owners in our neighborhood, or people or students that live in our neighborhood that are going above and beyond, doing well in school, academics, sports, that do things for the community. I'd love to be able to highlight them. So let me know if you have anybody. Right. I'm just going to introduce what I'm doing. I would start it with hi. Other people may be more formal, so they may be want to go with dear homeowner. Right. So it all depends on who you are, but I don't think there's any wrong or right way to do that. I mean, maybe yo, I probably wouldn't start it with like yo. That might be a little too vibey.
Okay.
Be friendly.
What's up, homies of the neighborhood?
Yeah, what's up? Oh, I mean, I guess depending on the neighborhood, it might work. If you're doing like a luxury neighborhood versus like middle class neighborhood, like working neighborhood, you may want to approach it differently, right? Like you may want it to be authentically you, but you may also want to reflect the price points of the neighborhood as well. So it just depends. There's no wrong or right answer.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, thoughts, or ahas from tonight's class?
I send out a monthly newsletter through my email, and I never thought about mailing it to my farm. So I think I'm going to start doing that too.
Perfect. And yeah, absolutely. Like for your sphere of influence touches, like in your database, anybody that you highlight in your farm, the business, the student, whoever it is, like you can double that up for those touches and content on your regular Facebook or social media pages as well. So, right, there's no limits. We don't have to recreate things for content on those other pages. If we're doing something specific for our farm, we can double up on a lot of those things. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me this evening. I appreciate it. Next week, we have, let's see what we have. We have We'll be covering the rest of the residential listing agreement, starting with section 14. We're also going to be covering the mobile home listing addendum and the probate listing addendum on Monday. On Tuesday, we are going to cover lead generation basics. We're talking about rev up lead generation. So not only are we talking about how to do different things, but we're talking about how to interact and follow up with those people. We will talk about different forms. On Wednesday, we have Boomer Donnell, who I said was going to be there today, and I lied. He will be there next week. So next Wednesday at 11 will be Boomer with Edward Joan Investments, talking about retirement and your financial future. And then next Wednesday night, we have lead generation on social media. Dun, dun, dun.
Thank you.
You are welcome. I will see you all next week. As always, if you need something between now and then, don't hesitate to reach out.
Got you on speed dial.
What?
All right, everybody.
Got you on speed dial.
Bye.
Bye.